there's absolutely no equivalence in between, the United States's footprint, and it's deliberately opaque, really, to obscure that very fact. And the impacts on people in these areas. Can you expand on that? Even, military families that have had their drinking water contaminated, all the way to folks in Iraq, and then, of course, the Palestinians in Gaza, who the starvation, the genocide, the missing limbs is one thing. Everybody in the Gaza Strip is inhaling just untold amounts of fumes and toxic materials just from the debris alone, let alone the unexploded munitions, let alone all of the other environmental impacts and what is happening and concentrated in an 141 square mile strip of land that has been bombed over and over again. Like, this is the health impacts on people, the millions of people, for the rest of their lives.
For the rest of their lives, for generations. I mean, this is not only generational trauma, it's generational destruction, environmental degradation. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that the Gaza Strip was actually a really biodiverse wetland. You're looking at the 1.1 million olive trees that were planted there. 1 million have been destroyed. 1 million. I mean, the desalination plants, the toxic waste, the contamination, the continuous blowing up of concrete, which is an extraordinarily energy-intensive material, and then the rebuilding of that as well. So you look at all these places like Sirte, Raqqa, Jabalia, and Palestine. I mean, just completely looks like a nuclear bomb went off from the result of U.S. or Israeli bombing. That intensive, concentrated bombing, releasing toxic chemicals that will affect not just Israelis, the entire planet. The entire planet. There's still dead zones from World War I with those munitions that were used. So, one of the leading toxicologists that we talked to, who's studied, numerous cities in Iraq out of the fallout of the Iraq War, not only is it completely dangerous, not only is it dangerous to have a child, and there's still extreme birth defects with all the children who are born there, it's every single person that's impacted by that. Every single person in Iraq is impacted. It's just bullets. She talks about, of course, we know about depleted uranium. We know about the fallout of nuclear radiation, all of this callous disregard for testing from the U.S. military, but just bullets, small arms in warfare. You never think about the toxic chemicals used from that. You talked about 270,000 barrels of oil consumed. 250,000 bullets are the estimated use for every single person who was killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. 250,000 bullets. And every single time that bullet was shot, it explodes into toxic, carcinogenic powder. And I think one thing, you mentioned just everyone being connected, whether we're talking about Micronesia, Guam, Okinawa, Hawaii, us here, Cop City, Atlanta, all of these people were all connected, right? And that's what this movie really is an incredible kind of insight in. Mike, being a veteran of the Iraq War, inhaling the burn pit toxic chemicals, the same carcinogens are in the children of Iraq today. Or Atlanta, Tortuguita getting executed while he's sitting there like Gandhi, sitting in a tent. That munitions that were used from the 1997 Congress that passed all the surplus munitions and military equipment from Iraq and Afghanistan and all of our adventures abroad, because they just need to keep making money. And so that equipment, that brunt military force, is going to be used against us. It's going to be used against protesters here. And we're already seeing the effects of that today. So whether it's the Okinawan people fighting day in and day out, putting their bodies into the gears of the machine just to slow down the construction that's desecrating their ancient blue coral that's taken tens of millions of years to grow, that's just being ripped out for this unnecessary new military base in a place that already has 32 military installations, whether it's Hawaiians being contaminated by ancient rotting jet fuel tanks that are seeping into their drinking water. They don't care about any of us, Emma. They're killing us all, whether it's service members, whether it's indigenous Hawaiians, it doesn't matter. It's all about money, and it's about short-term profit. And it's insane. And it doesn't matter what faith you subscribe to, what politics you adhere to. We are all victims of this. And that's what this movie really tries to lay bare.
Yeah, and when you talk about, what this all coming home to roost, I think it's a good way for us to kind of bring this full circle here, because so much of what we're seeing with ICE right now, first of all, ICE is a creation of the war on terror. It didn't exist prior to the Bush administration. And the machinery that is being used now domestically to terrorize these communities and rip families apart and detain them, and using basically torture from the Bush administration era and those tactics on people who are here either without documentation or even with documentation, but if they're Latino, that they're potentially subjected to this treatment from this administration. The Black Lives Matter protests and the tanks that would roll through our streets, this excess military equipment that these Pentagon contracts during the Iraq War, they were so lucrative and there was so much excess equipment that let's just give them to local police stations because, you know, they'll have fun with these new toys. That is such a visible example of what you're saying about this coming home to roost for the American people. But can you explain even more and expand on that notion with the environmental impacts as well?
Yeah, I mean, just that whole notion of the imperial boomerang. I mean, of course, the tactics and the operations of the U.S. have always been, have always been used, of course, not only abroad, but of course against, Black, brown, indigenous people here. So it's not a new concept, but I think the new concept of it is this high technological overlap where, similarly to Gaza, now we're seeing the bringing home of the technology that's been used primarily across the world now back to the citizenry here. The environmental impacts, I mean, again, going back to just the operational machinery of having this arsenal, like one flight mission of a B-52 bomber is like equivalent to like decades of just someone driving a car. So you really have to wrap your mind around just the amount of toxic waste. I mean, and one amazing thing about this is like all of these numbers come from the US government's own data. We didn't even have to do a FOIA request for any of this stuff because they list it all themselves, whether it's NOAA giving the permits to take tens of millions of marine mammals every year in these stupid war games, just a full frontal-fledged war on the oceans. Why do I know about Japanese whaling? But I don't know about my own government's continuous and relentless assault on tens of millions of marine mammals. Isn't that odd? So again, it's just the obfuscation and misdirection. We need to pinpoint the real perpetrators. We need to pinpoint who's really causing the collapse of the environment, Emma. And I think we know it's not trans people and our Muslim neighbors. It's the Pentagon brass who's doing this to us. We need to fight. We need to really fight. I mean, I want to have a fighting chance. That's why we wanted to do this movie. We wanted an intervention in the environmental movement. There's so many people out there who care about the planet, right? I mean, everyone wants a habitable planet. We all drink the same water and breathe the same air. So why is it that we don't know? Why is it that we don't understand what is really happening here? And it's just the situation is just becoming so urgent and dire, especially with this Charlie Kirk stuff and the political repression and censorship. Telling the truth and speaking simple facts like this have never felt more scary. So it's just so urgent that we get this consciousness to spread and really have a fighting chance to save the planet, Emma.
Well, Earth's Greatest Enemy, I can't recommend it more highly. Abby, where can people check it out? I know it's coming out soon, right? Like this weekend? Am I crazy?
It is. Yeah. We're on a nationwide tour. We're not only, trying to show this movie every single city, every military town that we can, but I'm also trying to bring together environmental groups. We have Sierra clubs hosting it at several cities, trying to bring together a hub of community groups who have maybe never been in a room together before and showing them, hey, we are all connected. We are all, they want us to be atomized and isolated. That's the point. We need to get out of our comfort zones and get in the same room with each other and figure out how we can really join forces here. And so that's what we're doing all across the country. I'm going in person, trying to kind of catalyze and orient and motivate people. And then the next phase of the tour will be anyone can screen the movie. It's going to be really, really amazing. I can't wait to get this out there. Everyone that sees it just says this isn't the typical doomsday, climate change thing. This is really motivating me to get involved in the struggle and really fight for the planet. So it's really exciting to hear that feedback. Everyone could check it out, earthsgreatestenemy.com. Bring me to your city. We'll release it online sometime early next year. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. We will put a link to that down below wherever people are listening to or watching this. Abby Martin, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Of course.
Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.